Well, hey there. Welcome to day 25 of the Get Up Go Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. How to use soap to wash away that dirty feeling. Ever got that dirty, grimy, greasy gopher guts feeling and you want to just hop in the shower and wash it all away? Of course we all do. Talking about the soap framework and how we can use that to deal with any area and any aspect of our life. Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationship, and contribution. Over the last several days, today's day 25 of our 30-day free challenge. So we've talked about physical, we've talked about relationships, we've talked about financial. We've talked about those three in detail. We broke the SOAP framework down, SOAP, one a day, and really went deep on each of those areas. And I noticed we were running out of time, and I'm like, okay, what about these other four core areas of our life that we have to pay some attention to? Let's just in one day quickly run through an example of the whole SOAP framework so that, number one, you can see that it becomes automatic and you can go through it super fast. It doesn't take 4 days. It doesn't take 1 day. Sometimes it doesn't even take 30 seconds, or it becomes automatic and instantly happens, where you'll be in a situation, you'll notice it, and automatically on the undercurrent in your subconscious, you'll be running through these steps. Story or situation, options, action, process, progress. What am I going to do? What am I going to do moving forward? So today, let's take a feelings one, an emotional one, because guess what? We are all absolutely positively emotional beings. We like to think that we do everything, and I'm the queen of that. I'm such a nerd and a person that is so in my brain and mathematical and scientific. I'm an engineer by profession and by trade, and so I think that I'm so pragmatic and so objective about things, but I'm not. I'm like everybody else. I'm an absolute positive emotional being. I decide things based on my emotions. I make choices and decisions and reactions based on my emotions. All human beings do. And then I justify that with reasons. They say that about sales, but guess what? It's about absolutely everything we do. We feel first, and then our brain kicks in. Our absolute conscious mind kicks in and starts backing us up, right? And a lot of times our subconscious kicks in and helps us feel more of that thing too. So think of all the feelings that we feel every day and on a daily basis. Sometimes, depending on what's going on in our life, or depending on what's going on around us, we feel hate, we feel love, we feel anger, we feel jealousy, we feel curiosity, we feel failure, we feel defeat, we feel desire, we feel loss, we feel passion, we feel adventurous, we feel, pissed off, we feel doubt, worry, and fear. Doubt, worry, and fear are the three most common emotions people feel. Now, it's really sad to say, because we all want happiness, joy, love, and all those amazing good feelings, yet the vast majority of human beings, we spend a lot more of our time and energy feeling doubt, worry, and fear and anxiety and depression than we ever spend letting ourselves feel love and peace of mind and all the emotions that we say that we want to feel. And during this time with COVID and everything, a lot of people are feeling lonely and anxious and depressed and lost and not knowing what to do. So how can we use the SOAP framework to work us through any one of these emotions? Now guess what? It's really hard to do anything and do a whole cluster of emotions at once. So I say you take them one at a time. Frustration is probably one of the emotions I spent an inordinate amount of my time in my life feeling. And it snuck up on me slowly, and I really didn't define it, and I didn't really think, oh, I'm so frustrated about this, until I was in the throes of so much frustration that I could barely function. And every day I noticed that I was feeling upset and frustrated. And it wasn't until I had the aha moment that realized that the reason I was feeling frustrated all the time was because I was expecting what was happening right now, what was going on in my life this very instant, to be different than what was actually happening. And so instead of looking at the situation and dealing with what was actually happening, I was just all mad and angry and crazed about it should be some way different. Things should somehow be different. This should be done faster. I should be further along. This person shouldn't have said that, or should say this instead of that. It was all focused on what was wrong with the current situation and how it should be different, but it wasn't. So all my energy was feeding into frustration. So how did I apply the SOAP model? And I will admit, our emotions are one of those things where, yep, we use it once, but then something else is going to trigger that emotion in us, and we fly through it again because we want to remind ourselves how we want to feel about certain things and how we want to respond and how we want to react. So let's use frustration and run through the SOAP model. So, situation. Where was I? And where am I still as a human sometimes? Something happens to trigger my feeling of this is not what I want and it should be something different. And as soon as I start noticing that I'm thinking something should be different than it is, I immediately now go into my SOAP model and change the way I feel. Because what I do is I consciously now remember, all right, this is what's going on right now. And that's where I really have to put my energy and think about, all right, stop. Yep, you already know what you want, and this isn't what you want. So you know what you want. Now, wake up, smell the coffee, look around, and really tap into what is going on right now. Because until I admit this is what's going on right now, this is what I want, I don't move toward what I want. I just get mad and frustrated and stay in one place about it, right? And frustration tends to make us respond by freezing, behaving in ways that are negative. How do people respond if you behave in ways that are negative to them? I guarantee all the years in running my businesses where I was frustrated and I didn't think other people knew because I was hiding it. I wasn't hiding it from anyone. Absolutely everybody. And they probably knew before I did that I was getting frustrated about something. It wasn't until I actually really felt, or I'd go in my office and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm really frustrated about this. Or I'm really angry about this. Why am I angry? Well, because I'm frustrated because I think it should be different than it is. And it wasn't until I realized that I had options. I could respond in a different way, right? I didn't have to get upset about things not being the way I wanted them to be. But once I realized I was upset about things not being the way I wanted them to be, then I could go into options and I could say, okay, well, what are the possibilities? What else is possible? What's going on here? What's the real story and the real situation? And we know where we want to be, so then how do we fill that gap? What are all the different ways we can fill that gap between where we are, what's going on, and what we want it to be? And then I would brainstorm out and I would think of, okay, I would troubleshoot, right? Options, thinking about options and possibilities in a lot of my instances in manufacturing were troubleshooting. Okay, this is what we want to happen. This is what's happening. How do we get from here to there? How do we get the job done? How do we get the task done? And then it's not only thinking about options and possibilities, it's actually problem solving and looking for solutions and troubleshooting what's going on so that we can make it the way we want it to be. And then after that, we'd look at all the possibilities, all the options. What are the things that we can do, not the things we can't do? And I would pick something and we would take action on that. We'd test it, see if it worked, and if it moved us toward and moved me toward what I wanted to be feeling. And if it solved the problem and it moved it and made progress toward what I wanted, of course, then I would create habits and processes and systems, if it made sense, to make sure that that thing never happened again, right? Once we find the root cause of a problem, we find the solution, we put the solution in place, we want to automate it or find ways to ensure that it's not going to happen again. And I found that the more things I did that with, the less and less frustrated I was. Well, worth more things going my way, yes. But instead of spending my time and energy being frustrated and feeling bad about things being the way they are, I would immediately go into, okay, well, what do we need to do now? What do we need to do next? What can we do? You know, if the freezer was too warm or something, what can we do? We immediately would go into troubleshooting. So I've learned to use the SOAP framework on everything, every situation, every problem, good and bad. You know, because sometimes we have awesome feelings and emotions that actually knock us off track. Anybody ever been in love? Ever been in that first throes of romantic passion and love and excitement and everything else? Guess what? It throws everything else in your life out of whack in the beginning. Because we go a little love crazy, right? We go a little frustration or hate or anger or prejudice or whatever feeling we're feeling crazy. And so if we can use the SOAP framework, and I use it all the time. I use it like automatically several times a day. You know, maybe I'm frustrated with, you know, a mess that my granddaughter made. It's like, oh my God, it's not the end of the world. It's spilt milk, right? You know, how many of us used to get upset over spilt milk? I don't get upset over spilt anything anymore. So that's it on emotions. I want you to try this today. find one emotion. When you notice that you're feeling it, run through the SOAP framework. Okay, what's the situation? What's the story I'm telling myself right now? What do I want the story to be? You know, maybe you're having a conversation with somebody and it's not going the way you want. And you just take a deep breath and you run through this in your mind, and all of a sudden you're responding differently because you're thinking about, well, this is the outcome I really want. So how do I need to listen? How do I need to breathe? How do I need to show up? How do I need to change my body language so that I'm really putting forth the emotion I want and not the one that the person will interpret as wrong? Tell you what, me changing my stance and my definition of frustration was huge. And that's a secret. What I actually ended up doing for a process with frustration, and you can do this with any emotion, I changed my definition of frustration and what it took for me to feel frustrated. Now, I've had to practice that again as I went online because there's so many things technologically that change, and they change all the time. And I used to find myself early on getting frustrated by stuff and by things I couldn't figure out. And I needed to use the SOAP framework to remind myself that things are always changing, even on the internet, even on the computer. And technologically, I just need to roll with it. And so now, instead of being frustrated when I couldn't figure something out, it got me excited that, okay, I'm going to figure this out. How am I going to figure this out? And guess what? When I figure it out, I'm going to tell other people so they don't have to get frustrated and they can figure it out too. Facebook just made a huge change in their format and how you do things on their platform. And I use Facebook every day. And I thought, as soon as it came, I actually rejected. I got it a little while ago. I don't even remember when. And I went back to my regular format. I'm like, I'm not learning this right now. And then I got it again. It was probably Thursday or Friday. I got the format change again, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to suck it up and learn it. And so now I've gotten excited as I figure out how to do the things I want to do with the platform every day, and I learn a little bit more and a little bit more, and I get better and faster, and it becomes easier every day because I'm looking at it now. Instead of being frustrated by the change, I'm excited by the change and what else is possible. What other opportunities are opened up for me? What's easier? What's better? What is, more user-friendly for me? Some of it's not, but then I find workarounds and I figure it out. So we can do this with any one of our emotions. So the challenge for you today is, when you notice an emotion, run through the SOAP framework and see how that impacts the outcome of the situation that you're in. And if you're brave, share that in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow, and we are going to go into, I don't remember which one's tomorrow. It's either contribution or spiritual, I think. All right, have an awesome day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye. I see my phone's falling.